Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, whether you're tuning in on your community station in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM. We're glad you all could be back with us, or at one of our online affiliates around the world. We're glad to have all of you with us as well. Bertram Gibbs is making his first appearance on our program today to talk to us not only about his love of the arts, but what it's been like for him to do what he loves as a storyteller and to be able to see the response. The other great thing about Bertram is that he definitely has a diverse background. We'll talk to him a little bit about that and how he's been able to draw on that in the work he's doing today, as well as what it's been like for him to hear from all of you about what you're thinking about his work, in particular his books. If you're just hearing about Bertram, we'll tell you at the end of our segment how you can stay connected with him. But Bertram, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Hello there. How are you doing?
Hey, doing really good. Glad to have you on with us. I love the fact that for you, it's a little different than my personal story where, in my family, there weren't really people who were involved in the arts when I was growing up, but they were supportive of me. You had the opposite, Bertram. You had individuals in your family that were involved in the arts, and you were able to kind of be able to be around that energy and then to be able to use that in your own life. Do you think that's one of the things that's kind of helped you as you kind of reflect on what you've been able to do, but also what's kept you going all this time?
Well, I come from I agree. It did assist me moving forward in life, and I come from an eclectic family of hams. My grandmother was a chorus girl on Broadway in Blackbirds of 1928. My grandfather was a jazz drummer. And my mother, who was very heavily into the arts but suffered stage fright, went to all the big Broadway shows, all the big movies during the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and all. And in growing up, I grew up in that very artistic atmosphere where, it was just, that was just part of the life. Instead of, understanding sports, I understood Broadway, I understood movies, and my mother, because of the entire family's background, taught me everything to know about film growing up. Special effects, makeup, direction, cinematography, everything. It was just, and that just assisted me in terms of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor at first, and I was an actor for several years. Did a few off-Broadway shows, did a crowd scene, which is my big claim to fame, in the King Kong movie from 1977. And I just loved being on stage. Love playing different characters, which also, I guess, attributes to my own personal insecurity, but where I didn't want to be myself, and just manifested into writing, which is something I've always done.
Right. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, and I think, being around the individuals that you named in your family, Bertram, I think the thing that came to my mind is that kind of helped you in realizing that really anything was possible. I think for a lot of people who don't grow up around something that they want to do or something that they aspire to be a part of, people will say to them, well, we don't know anybody who's done that, or, you don't know anyone that could do this. Definitely they couldn't say that in your case when it came to looking at your family and what was, able to be done by them. Did that help you in your confidence in pursuing what you wanted?
Yes, my mother brought me up with the understanding that if you think something is impossible, that means you didn't try hard enough. And to always go for what is in your heart versus sometimes what is in your mind, because at times we just go, okay, I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. I want to be an actor. I want to be a writer. I want to do something within the arts. And then you go, no, I'm not going to make money off of that. No, I have to fit a particular mold. I have to do this in terms of business. And art is actually a form of business, but people tend to ignore that. And again, my mother and my family just basically pushed me to do what was in my heart to do.
Yeah. You also said something else I thought was interesting when you talked about acting, Bertram, and that is not wanting to be yourself. Have you found that changing now that, of course, your name is on the cover of books and people have gotten to know you now as an author?
Yes, I think it has. At first, being I guess, odd kid in school. I didn't really, no, I was, of course, as brutal as kids can be. I was, picked on, ragged on by, other students because, he knows, he doesn't understand sports, doesn't know how to do a hoop, a foul shot, doesn't play football, but he knows about Broadway and everything. And I basically took their words to heart that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, or tough enough, or strong enough. And then as time went on, I'm like, no, this is me. This is me. This is the only person I can be. I cannot put like a false face on, even though I guess, everybody wears masks, at one time or another, or sometimes for their entire life to protect, for protection. For me, it was just, hi, this is me. Take me for what I am, or don't take me for what I am. But, and I guess my mother always told me that I had an ego that could power a third world country. So she basically enforced my ego, but also kept me in check. Growing up in a very sarcastic family, where we would just rip each other apart, and it was done in good nature. The best example is that because I have a semi-photographic memory, the teachers were always saying, he knows everything, he could remember all these little facts and figures and data, and then, come out and give an actual explanation of the subject itself. And my mother, one time in school, had to go through the PTA meetings, and all the teachers were like just praising me for my mind, my opinions, and she actually got bored with it. And when one teacher went, Bertram, when they made him, they broke the mold. My mother went, to prevent any duplications, we ran over the pieces with a truck.
Wow. What a great thing. And I think, that in itself says a lot, Bertram, about the importance of being oneself and being unique. And I love the fact that you mentioned about the mask that so many wear, because I think that is so true. But I want to talk about, again, what it's been like for you to now be an example for other people as to what they can achieve. I mean, do you see yourself as someone who, because of what you've been able to do and what you've been able to accomplish, that you are showing people that, you can be who you are and be happy and still be able to achieve what you want?
Yes, I do. I feel that very strongly. It's if you, and I've actually spoke to many people who have been, I guess, consumed by self-doubt as to what they want versus what they're told they have to do. I said, look, your heart will never be in it if you don't do what your heart tells you. If you want to be an artist, be an artist. If you want to be a writer, be a writer. Don't let society push you into a direction that is not you. Always be true to yourself, if you want to use Shakespeare. To thine own self be true. It's, and that is the core of happiness. It's, you have to do what you have to do in order to fulfill your inner desires. And people in this world, we are so consumed with society and the rules and regulations, and in certain ways being normal, if that's a word, because long ago, because of my love of psychology, I realized early on that there is no actual definition of normal. So if that's the case, then everyone's crazy. So embrace the craziness, embrace the madness, embrace who you are.
Right. Wow. That's a great point, Bertram. I'm going to come back to that as we talk about the books. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're already having a great conversation during this segment with Bertram Gibbs. You've gotten to know him as an author, but he's been sharing even in this conversation about what it's been like for him to be able to do other work in his life, including acting, but also the benefits he was able to get from those in his family and the example that they were able to set. To go now to the writing, Bertram, I want to talk about how you've kind of been recognized more recently, and that is through the crime thrillers that you've been able to write. What is it that led you in that direction?
Well, I guess when I was into theater, and to study, I realized in studying for a particular role or a part, you had to know the character, which brought me into psychology and understanding the human mind and how it functions. But I also enjoyed more the, I guess, abnormal psychology or criminal psychology, and because I liked playing the villains. Yes, the villains were the bad guys, the evil force in the story, but they had the better lines. So at that point in my life, I just going, well, let's get into criminal psychology. And I just developed a love of forensic science, crime stories. I was always a big lover of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes and mysteries. And it was just a point that I just said, okay, what happens if someone does this? And I started writing stories about that. Just trying to find what makes a person evil. Is the evil justified? Does the person actually see themselves as evil? In most cases, the villains think of themselves as the heroes, as the good guys, that they're doing something for a moral cause, even though it's not recognized, again, as the norm. And that, I guess, my love of psychology and my love of criminal sciences just brought me into writing crime thrillers.
Wow. And so what has it been like for you to see the response? I mean, it's always interesting to me, Bertram, when I talk to those who have come from one profession or gotten to be known from one profession going into another. I talked to someone recently who was a part of theater, who now, of course, is on television, and I was asking him about the difference of, that delayed reaction of you being able to get the instant reaction, of course, from theater, and then having to wait a while when it comes to a show coming out. What has it been like for you now to hear from people who are reading your work and being able to reach out to you about their thoughts about it?
Well, it's a mixed feeling because I have received I guess praise from readers on my stories, but I'm very critical of my stories. Where if I go back and reread it, going, nah, I could have done better here, or I shouldn't have used that. And to me, that is where I draw my strength from. It's like reviewing what I've previously written and then trying to improve it. So it's very gratifying that people like it, and I go, okay, if you like this, wait till you see this one. So it's always trying to top myself. And I think is a strong point for anybody. If you do something, do not just rest on what you've done. Try to top yourself. You're the only one who could.
Right. So I think the one that people have been, especially this year, that I've seen people talking about, Bertram, has been The First Thing We Do. Do you kind of go into a story with the what if in mind, or do you already know when you sit down to start writing kind of what you want to be able to happen through as the story kind of unfolds? Well,
because of my love of films, and I have a collection of about 3,100 movies. Yeah, I live in a warehouse. I guess my writing is very similar to movies. My mind has already created the beginning, the middle, and the end, and I am just fleshing it out, filling in all the inner parts, the in-betweens, and I basically see everything as a movie in my head, which is another part of my psychosis, where I am seeing the entire scene playing out, hearing the dialogue, seeing the cinematography, and directing it. So I have a whole movie in my mind. So all I'm doing, for the sake of a word, is transcribing the movie scene. It's a very weird process, and I don't know why or how I've done that, but it's a God-given thing, I guess you could say, or a Ma-given thing, since my mother's the one that brought me up to understand and love movies. But everything that I've written plays out like a film. So I'm writing a film adaptation of a movie that's never been made.
Got you. Well, one of the things that you were able to do, you and I, we were connected by a mutual friend, Steve Joyner, but you and I have communicated some on social media through Facebook. How is social media? That's one of the big evolutions, I think, that have really become a big part of our lives. I know, we use it a good bit on this program, especially over the past 8 years, but how has that kind of helped you in amplifying your voice, Bertram, and being able to help you reach a larger audience?
Well, I think as good as social media can be, if that's a grammatically correct phrase, I think it's also a detriment to social media. It's people can come off, if you can have a discussion, if you can have, an interaction with somebody, yes, that's very strong, that's very good. But if you can have somebody who comes up with moronic opinions, but again, they're opinions. But as for my work, it pushes people to go, okay, this sounds like an interesting idea. Let's look at it this way, and then they share that with their friends, and their friends in that case share it with their friends. So, right. In a good way, social media has pushed to more people, and like I said, again, it can be used for good or bad, as everything can be. But I think social media, since I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, I think people are going more to, everyone is writing this particular type of story, or everyone's writing this particular type of story. This guy Gibbs, he's writing something different. Let's take a look. And I think if used in that fashion to show something that's original, because unfortunately, the industries, whether it's film or literary, they tend to okay, this is the hot topic now. Let's everybody write a story about, everybody writes their John Grisham novels. Everybody writes their Robert Ludlum novels. Everybody does a Mission Impossible movie. Everyone does a superhero movie. Let's look for something different. The industries tend to just push what is popular versus what's original.
Right, for sure. Do you think that's one of the things that you have been consistent about, Bertram, is not being defined by what others want, but really staying true to your own voice? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I do not like sequels as a rule, nor do I like, okay, as you said, just as I was saying, just the fact that everyone is pushing a particular genre. I like to do something that's a little different, that makes people go, okay, that makes me think. And that's unfortunately a lot of people do not do. They don't think. They just, okay, this is what's in front of me, and they accept it versus going, there are too many of these type of stories out there, too many types of movies out there. Let's go for something different, which is why we have the independent film industry that comes up with something different, but unfortunately, they're overshadowed by what is trending now. Right. Got you. Well, I tell you, I think it's great that you've been able to not only to discover what your voice is, but also to be able to share that the way that you want to be able to share it. And I think that the fact that there's an audience for it speaks to the fact that, like with anything else, and it's a great point you made earlier in the conversation, that if we are able to use our gifts, I mean, there is an audience out there. It really is about us doing our part, and they will be able to find us. Again, everyone, Bertram Gibbs has been our guest. You know him because of the work he's been able to do most recently as an author. I mentioned the book, The First Thing We Do, but he's written other work as well. It's available through our friends at Amazon.com. Bertram, let our audience know how they can stay connected with you and where they'll be able to kind of keep up with what's going on with you. Okay, well, what you can do actually is, you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm quite visible, which is good or bad for certain people. I have my own website, which is bertramg56.com. Wixsite, wixsite.com/Bertrams-Gibbs, which is quite long, but that's where it is. And you'll be able to look at my site. You'll be able to follow me on Facebook, and I will give updates on the stories that I'm writing. And right now, even though we have The First Thing We Do, there's my book, Reflection from the Abyss, and an earlier piece, which is my satirical take on the superhero genre, formerly known as. I have actually about 11 more novels that I am getting published. So actually, all I have to do is just push out a book a year and not do anything. But yeah, well, definitely we can stay connected with. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. No, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, I just am compelled to write, which drives my wife crazy because she sees me sitting at the keyboard giggling insanely as I'm writing a story. And then she goes, okay, he's going to be finished soon. And then I said, okay, I'm done. And she's like, good. Did it feel good? Yes. And she goes, okay, now you can rest. Next morning, I'm starting another story. Well, that creativity it's great that you're able to share it, Bertram, and of course to be able to let other people be a part of it as well. Looking forward to what's coming up next for you, and thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. I'll be back if you want me to.
I will definitely have you back on again. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late and missed part of the conversation with Bertram, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media site. So head over to Facebook.com/Cyrus Webb or go to Twitter.com/Cyrus Webb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share it with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live today. You all make it a great one.